Chairman, thanks for being here today. Probably get right under the wire here. I just had one, and some of my colleagues have touched on this today again, that there's certainly, I think we're well aware, I'm well aware, that there's a dynamic back in the district and across this nation. There's a certain segment of adults, 25 to 35-year-olds, many of them dual income, no kids, and they are completely froze out of the housing market right now, either because the cost of a home at a new subdivision in any municipality is $500,000 or more. And as a result of that, it's not only by actions of the Fed, I think, on the interest rates, but certainly the other thing I wanted to bring up, because the balance sheet at the Fed has gone from $4 trillion to $9 post-pandemic, could the Fed, by no longer buying mortgage-backed securities, in a smaller universe of the private sector buyers who demand a higher rate of return, right? Is there not another kind of built-in trigger there that mortgage rates are going to continue to go higher, unrelated to what the Fed does? Because I think the concern is that between the dynamics of no new subdivisions, 25 to 35-year-olds unable to get a loan, and then interest rates continuing to climb, all of these factors are just, we're going to lose a generation of adults here that are never going to get home ownership. They're never going to benefit, which we all know is the big wealth builder for any family. So I'm just, if there's anything I take away from what we heard today in the questions asked, I hope that that is something that the Fed is in tune to and is looking at closely.
One thing is that the challenge with supply nationally, and that's zoning, it's people, it's materials, and so the housing stock is constrained to some extent by just harder to find zoning anymore because things are so built up in so many places, and those are not things that we can control. In terms of our ownership of mortgage-backed securities, what happens with them is they mature, or they're repaid or prepaid, and they run off on their own. That's a passive sort of way to shrink the balance sheet. And of course, they don't run off very quickly when rates are this high because people are not refinancing their mortgages because they have much lower mortgage rates. So, there's no evidence at this point that, that the market's having a hard time absorbing, the supply of mortgages because the supply of new mortgages is very low. It's probably right, it has to be right, that when we're no longer buying mortgages, and we're not buying mortgages now, and I hope we don't have to buy any more mortgage-backed, we don't buy individual, we buy mortgage-backed securities. I hope we're not doing that anytime soon. We only do that in really severe situations. That the fixed income markets are gigantic, and there's a lot of buyers out there, and where there's a yield, there'll be buyers. And I think I expect that'll be the case. It might, not that it wouldn't have some upward pressure on rates for us not to be a buyer anymore, but we weren't a buyer for a very long time. We thought we'd never go back in after the global financial crisis, and we kind of had to after the pandemic financial crisis just to keep the markets working, and now we've stopped again.
Good. Thank you very much, Chair, and I yield back.